Hello and welcome. There are few aircraft that can claim such a rich historical heritage as the Cessna C-37 AirMaster with an Australian registration of VH-Zulu uniform. This aircraft has been restored by licensed aircraft maintenance engineer Ray Goulding of Bendigo, and who now in retirement wants to sell it. My hope is that it finishes up in West Australia, where much of its history has been created. Let's look at that history. Uniform Zulu uniform was purchased new in 1937 by Horry Miller's Commercial Aviation Company. It was the first new Cessna to be imported into Australia. It was used on the regular Monday service between Adelaide and Whyalla, and as of July 1938, it had flown 452 hours. It was then flown from Adelaide to Perth by Cyril Kleinig in December 1939, joining McRobertson Miller Airlines at Maylands Airfield as a general purpose aircraft. It replaced the de Havilland Dragon VH uniform Romeo X-ray, which had been impressed into the Royal Australian Air Force. This Dragon aircraft has an interesting backstory too. On the 23rd of October 1934, it was wrecked when picked up by a Willy Willy while parked at Ort River Station. Pilots George McCausland and Bert Hussey hung on grimly to each wing. However, the aircraft was blown into stockyards, ending up on its back. Horry Miller flew from Perth to Ord River to rebuild the Dragon and delivered a de Havilland Moth to commence a feeder service between Ord River and Wyndham. Working on his own in extreme heat, Miller made major repairs to the Dragon, replacing the demolished nose section with a temporary structure he made from plywood panels from T-chests. What else? Some weeks later, an engineer from Perth joined him to help the lifting for final reassembly. Then Miller flew it to Perth. It was fully rebuilt and back in service by mid-December that year. Not to be outdone, Uniform Zulu uniform suffered a forced landing due to fuel starvation on the 3rd of December 1940, 16 kilometres north of Carnarvon. It was rebuilt, repairing extensive damage to its propeller, engine mounts, landing gear and front fuselage. On the 23rd of January 1942, it was dispatched to the Kimberleys to assist with salvage operations following the crash landing of Lockheed Electra VH Alpha Bravo Victor. A passenger of this Electra wrote a book about this. The book, Escape from the Rising Sun, is still available from Hesperian Press. Alan Metherill was only a child at the time when evacuated with his mother and younger brother from Singapore. The Electra was en route Darwin to Perth when engine failure forced a landing in the black soil bog in the Kimberleys. A ground party from Meader Station had tried unsuccessfully an overland rescue of the passengers using horses and pack animals. This was the wet season and even wheeled vehicles couldn't reach them. Reasonably firm ground, just 260 metres long, was found near the Electra and cleared so that Uniform Zulu uniform, flown by James Woods, could operate. He made 36 round trips to that landing area to evacuate the passenger, mail and luggage, bringing in food, supplies and even a propeller and disassembled engine to repair the Electra. It was James Woods, affectionately known as Jimmy, that same year who airlifted survivors of the Japanese bombing at Broome and later rescued the passengers and crew of a beached Dutch Navy plane. He later formed Woods Airways service in 1948, which provided regular flights in 2 Avro Ansons from Perth to Rottnest Island. Although the RAAF attempted to acquire Uniform Zulu uniform for military use, MMA stated that this aircraft, operating their northern service, was already providing the military with its services. Uniform Zulu uniform suffered another forced landing in May 1942, about 40 kilometres south of Dongra, due to engine failure. The pilot was the plucky Jimmy Woods. Uniform Zulu uniform was struck off the register in 1948 when its book value was the equivalent of $30,000 today. It was re-registered by MMA in 1950, then sold to Francis Roche of South Yarra. During the early 1950s, Frank Roche flew Uniform Zulu uniform on missions for Bush Pilots Airways. In 1954, it was sold again and had various owners being on and off the register before finally selling to Ray Goulding of Bendigo. Ray restored it to flying status in a rebuild which took 7 years. It was repainted in the original MMA colour scheme, except that the lettering was in scarlet rather than navy blue. As of March 2022, it has had a total of 3,126 hours total time, low really when you consider it is 85 years old. Hope is that this aircraft, the first new Cessna in Australia, with links to MMA, Cyril Kleinig, Horry Miller, Jimmy Woods, Frank Colquhoun, Alex Witham and others, will find its home back in Western Australia. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe and hit the notify bell. Thank you.